Hello shooters, this edition of Man vs. Handgun is going to be about the Hudson 9.
Man versus gun.
Okay, a buddy of mine, Porter Glockwell, he goes by. He purchased a Hudson 9. I met him down at a local range, so my tabletop review will not be the typical white background. It's going to be at a range, and I will do the tabletop review at the range and also the shooting at the range. So let's go to the tabletop review. The weight of the Hudson 9 is 37 ounces, which is the exact same weight as a Smith & Wesson 5906. That'll come to play later. I know Hudson's website says 34, but they measure it without a magazine. I always measure it with the magazine. So it's a heavy beast, and it comes in at the same as a Glock 17 plus 26 rounds. So this is a heavy puppy. It scores a 2 out of 5 for weight. The width is pretty thin for a gun. It's 1.24 inches wide, so it gets a 4 out of 5. I gave it a 5 for a service gun. It's a good sized service gun. I gave it a 2 for a CCW gun because it is so heavy, and it gets a 0 for a pocket gun. The receiver, it's steel, so that gets a 1, but I upgraded it because it does have a nice feel to it. The back strap, I gave it a 3. It's not adjustable, so it gets 0 there. Side panels, I gave them a 3. The reason I gave them a 3 is I don't like side panels with screws on them like these, like a 1911, because you'll lose the screw, you'll strip the screw, you'll cross-thread the screw. I think it's a bad idea. A much better idea, in my opinion, is the way HK, the P30, the VP9 has interchangeable side panels. That's the best way to do it. Trigger pull, I gave it a 4. It has a good single action kind of feel to the trigger pull, and it's the same every time. It's not single action, double action, so it gets a 5 there. The magazine well has pretty good flaring. I gave it a 3. It does not the best, not the worst. The magazine gets a 4 overall. The base plate is not one-hand manipulation friendly, so I gave that a 2, but it does seat well, so I gave that a 5 for seating. Magazine release location, I gave that a 4. The design, I gave a 4. It's not mirror image, so that gets a 0. The safety's in the trigger, like all guns ought to be, so it gets a 5 there. Location's a 5, and since it's in the trigger, it's mirror image, that gets a 5 also. The slide catch release, design of a 4. I wished it had a little bit of protection, but it doesn't. Location's a 4, and it is mirror image, so kudos to Hudson for that, so it gets a 5 there. Rear sight is excellent. I love the sights on this thing. It's like Trijicon HDs. Maybe they are Trijicon HDs, but they are excellent. So it gets a 5 on the rear sight design, and it gets a 5 on one-hand manipulation friendly on the rear sight. The front sight is also a 5 because it's Trijicon HDs. It does have a light rail, but the bad news is the light rail is so far down below the pistol that it is extremely hard to activate the light when it is actually on the gun. It's not easy for the trigger finger. It's not easy for the thumb, so it's kind of a fail there. It is not optics compatible, so it gets a 0 there. Let's go to the range. Now, before we get to the range, I want to talk about one of the claims that Hudson makes. One of the claims Hudson makes is they have reduced muzzle flip because of the extreme low bore axis of the handgun. Well, call me suspicious, but I wanted to test this on my own. So I have a Smith & Wesson 5906. It has the exact same weight as the Hudson 9 because it is a heavy gun, so one could say, well, yes, it's so heavy, that's why there's less muzzle flip. Where I have a 5906 has the exact same weight as the Hudson 9, so we're going to test them head-to-head and see which one truly does have less muzzle flip. Okay, this is the 5906. We're going to be shooting Blazer factory ammunition, 9mm 115 grain ammo with the 5906 and the CZP-10C. Here it is in slow-mo. And this grid pattern behind us we're going to use to measure the muzzle flip. You can see right there, it's got about 2, almost 3 of those grid pattern things. Here's the CZP-10C, same ammo, same shooter, me. And we're going to measure the muzzle rise on this. Here we are in slow-mo. And here's the measurement of the... So it's about the same as the 5906, maybe a little bit more. It's a lighter handgun. And you can see right now that this Hudson 9 does have less muzzle rise than the other two. As soon as I started shooting, I noticed how flat shooting it was compared to the other two. Here we go in the slow-mo. And it is a fact, it is just a flatter shooting gun, no doubt about it. It is a flatter shooting gun. And because it is flatter shooting, and it has a good trigger, here's a really fast split time coming up. Here's a regular one. Watch this one. Just ultra fast split time. I could only do that once or twice because I'm not super familiar with this gun. This is my buddy shooting it. He's the owner of the gun. But I could only get, but when I was on my game, it would be an extremely fast split time. I was surprised by the Hudson 9. It shoots really, really nice. That low bore axis does lessen the muzzle flip. The weight of it helped also. It's a little bit heavy for me for a carry gun, but there's a lot of people out there that will carry this gun. We did have one failure to extract with the Hudson 9. We put a couple hundred rounds through it, but not very many rounds have been put through it before that. So if that irons itself out in the next 300 or 400 or 500 rounds, it should be good to go, but I need to point that out. Thank you for watching. Appreciate our shares, likes, and subscribes. If you have experience with the Hudson 9, please post them down below. If you own a Hudson 9, please post your experiences down below, and let's continue the discussion down there. As always,
ensure that your training and your practice is preparing you for the real world, your real world, and not for the fantasy land of the shooting range.
and have a nice day.